When I first played Fallen Order, I thought I was playing Knights of the Old Republic.
What?
About probably 8 years ago, I had read a bunch of lore on different Star Wars wikis, and I was really interested in the Old Republic era and the old Sith empires and whatnot. At this point, my curiosity completely spoiled me about the story and a specific mind-bending twist that occurs in what certain people online consider to be the greatest Star Wars game of all time. Knights of the Old Republic. I never actually got around to playing it, especially thinking that there was little point already knowing the story. Now, 4 years ago, completely unrelated, I picked up the game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I saw a lot of people say was the best Star Wars game they had ever played. Somehow, in my mind, I assumed that this was the same game. It was like, wow, this game with this cool twist isn't even that old, and it had been long enough that I completely forgot that it was supposed to take place far in the past. So, the entire time I was playing Fallen Order, I was waiting for the twist that I knew was coming, but it never did, which in a weird way was like a double twist for me, and the game story completely surprised me and became elevated because it didn't do what I knew was supposed to happen. All of this is to justify why I ended up loving Fallen Order's story and how it kept me on the toes throughout the entire narrative, while Survivor did not do that.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
However, in order for this video and this framing to work from this point on, I need to give you the required context from Knights of the Old Republic. So, even if I have never played the game myself, I highly encourage anyone remotely interested in the game story to experience it for yourself, if you don't know what I'm about to say. As far as I know, the game has one of the best Star Wars narratives, and the big twist works far better if it isn't spoiled through a wiki online, through a Reddit comment, or by Storm of Magic explaining it to you. But I'll do my best to summarize quickly here. In the game, you find yourself awakening during some sort of battle, an ongoing war, fighting for the Republic as a malleable character whose personality you form throughout the game, as it allows you to make morally good or bad decisions throughout your main quest, which is about finding an overpowered construct called the Starforge that can sway the fight in favor of the Siths or the Republic. Throughout the game, you hear about the infamous Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Revan, and all that he has done, and what may happen if he or his apprentice, Darth Malik, wins. Towards the end, though, Malik reveals that you are Darth Revan, Dark Lord of the Sith, and from here, you can decide to go back to full Darth Revan, let's take over the galaxy mode, after realizing that your mind has been wiped and that you've been made a fool by the Jedi.
They tried to make you their slave.
Or embrace your new identity, knowing that returning to the dark side will lead to destruction, death, etc. It's seen as one of the coolest twists in Star Wars. You might think I'm a complete idiot for believing that this was going to happen to Cal Kestis in Fallen Order up until the very end. And you would probably be right. But you know how stormtroopers will randomly call you a traitor?
A traitor. I'm ready for you, traitor.
In my mind, this was a hint. Why would they call you a traitor if you had never been on their side? And Seer is obviously holding some sort of secret back. She's probably responsible for his memory loss. And look at the training flashbacks. You might call me out for being xenophobic, but Gera looks so evil to me. I was sure that these were actually showing a Sith training his Padawan in an Imperial ship. His first cutscene is also quite aggressive, and I thought this
"Trust only in the Force"
was his Sith Master trying to warn him against trusting his new Jedi friends. Because in the beginning, we never get any detailed backstory as to how Cal even got to Bracca or how he survived Order 66, because his memory has been wiped, and he's regaining it bit by bit through his adventure and healing connection to the Force. And at some point, he's got to face the truth that he was once a Sith, or at least a Sith apprentice, that needs to make a decision. Whether to go full Sith mode over the betrayal when Seer doesn't tell him the truth, handing over the holocron to Lord Vader himself, or to continue walking his new path, seeing the destruction the Empire has wrought everywhere, and wanting to build something different. Something better. With all of that in mind, imagine what goes on inside my brain when this happens. So what actually happens instead? Well, let's start with the start. Cal starts off starting as a low-life scrapper from the start who is found and hunted by the Inquisitorius. Not from the start, but rather 10 minutes after the start. The initial start, I mean. Okay, I'm gonna start committing. After a densely packed but brief intro, Cal is rescued by Seer and Grease and taken to the planet Bogano, where he meets a droid leading him to a vault containing a holocron that shows the names and locations of young Force sensitives all across the galaxy, who could form the foundation of a new possible Jedi Order. There's a catch. The Jedi who put the holocron there, Master Eno Cordova, has not made it accessible for just anyone, but only for one who has proven themselves by walking in the footsteps of the Zeffo, an ancient civilization that the Master admired. Only then are you granted access to the inner chamber and the holocron within. This is a lot of information to dump on you at once, but that's how it feels playing the game as well. A lot of stuff happens in quick succession in order to set up this main quest for the game, getting to that damn holocron. As for Eno Cordova himself, it seems that he hid this holocron away in advance, after his
vision of doom
before Order 66. Seer tells us that she was once his apprentice, that's why she knows about this vault on Bogano in the first place, now having cut herself off from the Force and thus no longer a Jedi. Considering we never see him in the game outside of these holograms, and how everybody talks about him in past form, I think every player is led to assume that he died in the Purge like most, which makes it feel more special to get to know this wise, mysterious master who has laid out the path towards our only chance of restarting the Jedi Order again. I really like listening to his enthusiastic and fascinated commentary throughout. It makes the player ask questions as well. What happened to the Zeffo, and what were their intentions behind these great constructions? Perhaps there really is something important to learn here. So already we have our goal and we got our main characters. Now, what I've always found interesting about this next part is that you're given a choice to go to Zeffo or Dathomir. And Cal says,
to get it, we have to follow Cordova's path. He mentioned something about the planet Dathomir and a Zeffo homeworld.
but come on, this is what he said.
go to the Zeffo homeworld.
It appears the Zeffo had some interest in Dathomir. For such a peaceful culture to have any sort of fascination with a place so dark.
Now, after hearing that, where would you want to go? It's a fucking non-decision. It makes no sense to go to Dathomir, but you can, and because you can, you're probably going to at some point. I don't want to be that guy, but come on, doesn't this also seem like an obvious hint that if you choose Dathomir, you're willingly choosing a dark path that doesn't help your goal, drifting closer to your secret Sith tendencies? Alright, I'm going to take a huge leap forward here and change topic, and it's going to happen abruptly, so stand by for the tonal change. I want to talk about Chieftain Tarful. Who is that, you probably wonder? Well, I can't blame you for not remembering him, because he's the most worthless sack of shite in the entire game. Following the footsteps of Cordova to the Eye of the Storm on Zeffo, this happens.
If the Zeffo had contact with Kashyyyk, there is a good chance Chieftain Tarful will know about it.
So, who is Tarful and what does he know about the Zeffo? He is a leader in an active guerrilla war on Kashyyyk against the Empire, in danger of dying for every day that goes by. Now, this probably wasn't the case when Cordova himself made up this entire quest, but come on! This is such a stupid idea! If Tarful had died or just moved somewhere or whatever, his entire quest becomes literally impossible. Cordova doesn't know how long it will be before someone eventually comes to Bogano. And as expected, finding the specific Wookiee on Kashyyyk in the middle of a rebellion orchestrated by Saw Gerrera isn't that easy, so the story just takes a break while the rebels try to find him for you after you've helped them liberate the refinery there. Just feels kinda dumb, but whatever. So after all of this back and forth gameplay-wise from Kashyyyk, Zeffo, probably Bogano, and Dathomir for most players, what actually happens when we find Tarful deep within the Shadowlands? Nothing?
Cordova found wisdom at the top of the origin tree. You should seek answers there.
So let me get this right. Tarful does not know what is going on at all. However, he knew that Cordova found wisdom at the top of the origin tree. Bro, did I ask about Eno Cordova's favorite spot for meditation, or did I want information about how one goes about obtaining a specific
For
Zeffo artifact? He knows nothing. He's worthless. I love when you actually get to the top of the tree. He says, I have found the Astrium, galactic history. I can never thank Toffel enough. Well, it seems to me that you didn't thank him at all, because he had nothing better to say than go to the tree. This entire Astrium Zepho artifact deal went right over his head. Why the fuck wasn't the original objective to just go to the top of the origin tree? Tarful is completely irrelevant. But of course, the entire journey was completely irrelevant as well, because at the end of the day, we never get to find this Astrium of Cordova's. He never tells you where we hid the damn thing. Now, I think we're supposed to assume that the Empire got it during their excavation of Zepho, somehow. But the fact remains that Cal only ever really needed to just go to the tomb of Kujet in Dathomir, something he only knows to do because of a throwaway line from Cordova.
Finding the Astrium inside Kujet's tomb, but the Force has provided a new path.
Kuch's tomb.
Can we all just agree that this entire part of it makes Cordova the dumbest motherfucker in the galaxy? Not only did he make it unnecessarily risky and hard to follow his path here for reasons out of our control, but there's just so many things that can go wrong here in general. How the hell is anyone supposed to understand where he hid this key to the vault, the Astrium, after seeing this hololog on the origin tree? What happens if, for example, an intergalactic empire happens to be excavating the exact same ruins as you? What if Tarful, the oblivious idiot, cannot be found or is just straight up dead? Also, I get that he wanted the person that finds BD-1 and the vault, that they should prove themselves worthy, but let's assume they're not worthy. Cal fails his quest, gives up, whatever, then your plan goes down with him, because as far as I know, BD-1 doesn't have the ability to teleport back to Bogano. Wait, didn't I start this off by saying that I liked the story in Fallen Order? The truth is that this story doesn't need to be watertight in every aspect. Of course, it would be better if it was, but the focus is on the characters, their flaws, and their growth. Cal's impulsiveness and damaged connection to the Force, Cere's underlying mistrust in herself and her relation to the Force, Grease's laziness, stubbornness, and his relation to money. Merrin, Malikos, Trilla, they're all flawed characters, and the way they develop and interact with each other is what is compelling, more so than the actual plot itself. Up until the point Cal is revealed to be the Dark Lord of the Sith, of course. So if I want to simplify the story as much as possible, the entire Cordova quest is an excuse for Cal to butt heads against the Empire and the Second Sister over and over, who first comes for him on Braca. It is revealed that her real name is Trilla, as mentioned, and that Cere was her master, and that the experience that changed Cere's perspective was having her Padawan turned into an Inquisitor. I find this entire aspect of the story quite fascinating. How even Jedi can be cracked under torture, and how basically children relatively easily can be turned over to the dark side through fear, pain, hate, and trauma. It's hard to watch certain cutscenes, and this is where the story is the strongest and really does have an emotional impact on me. Though a good story needs a diversion where at least some things are unpredictable. Cal's sudden capture by a bounty hunter in Zepho is one such example, leading to this prison escape scenario in an unknown area with weird characters without explanation. It's the most Dark Souls the story gets. It being revealed as a Colosseum where you're a Jedi fighting for entertainment is quite interesting. But the final bounty hunter is a bit of a joke compared to the swarms of annoying animals before. You're saved by Grease and Cere, and it's made clear that Greasy Money's money problem with resulting debt and bounty hunters is the culprit. I like the foreshadowing that happens if you pay attention, and even if it's not relevant to the story, it's a welcome pause from a narrative that isn't watertight or otherwise paced perfectly anyway. Let's talk about the storyline on Dathomir, because everything that happens here initially is almost entirely disconnected from the rest of the game, making for a really weird B-plot that kind of turns into the A-plot. It's mainly confusing, really, because, as I said at the start, there is literally no reason to go here before we know that the key to the vault, the Astrium, is here. If anything, Cordova warns us against going to Dathomir, yet most players will go there long before it is required. Even if the main story is in supposedly a rush to do something else, you can just decide to go here and slaughter the local inhabitants. It almost feels out of character how Cal handles his first interaction with the Night Sister, Merrin. She is completely right. He's just probing in here for no reason at all. When she tells him to leave, he says,
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that, but...
Why? Cal, you really could just go back and do the main quest, but you know what, let's just fight our way further in without knowing what we're doing or where we're going, angering the local populace and wildlife. Afterwards, a mysterious wanderer warns us about the ancient ruin there, describing how the Night Sisters were seduced by the dark within. He is a neat little mystery that eventually reveals himself to be Taron Malikos, former Jedi. Otherwise, Cal gets more and more antagonistic with the Night Sister. Look, what the fuck is this cutscene?
You will go no further.
Stand aside.
No. He was right about you.
Who? What?
Jedi are thieves and selfish liars who bring nothing but death.
Back off. If you attack me again, I'll strike you down.
Why is he so aggressive all of a sudden? Broski, I'm telling you, he is a Sith, and the darkness within the tomb of Kujet will help him remember his past. No, but really they just made Cal act hostile just to spice up the conflict with Merrin, the Night Sister. To be fair, he does see a vision from the past within the tomb of Kujet, it's just lacking the Sith part of it. Instead, it's just a really heart-wrenching sequence depicting how his master was killed as a result of Order 66, and how he barely escaped with his life from the clones that were supposed to be his protectors and friends. I love the transition here, using the meditation spot within the game to transition into the past, whilst also making sense from the outside perspective. Meditating in the Tomb of Kujet is shown to be dangerous and scary, as the darkness brings forth your deepest pain and fears. I do like this entire sequence where he faces the overly harsh and mean version of his master, leading to Cal crushing his own lightsaber, although it can also somewhat feel like a phony way to get us to the next section of the story. I think we see something similar in Ilum when Cal finally finds a Kyber crystal. It kind of just breaks for no reason, and then he also just immediately gives up without even considering the possibility of finding another one in this huge cave. Again, I'm not too harsh on this because, like most such moments, the focus isn't on the details that get us there, in this case why the crystal shatters in the first place, but on the emotional moment itself. So here we get to see Eno Cordova bidding farewell to BD-1 and his failure is not the end speech, which is really good. In fact, throughout this entire journey, one grows to really like Cordova and feel sad that the wise master isn't with us, presumably lost in the purge that he foresaw but could not prevent. And then Cal just uses both pieces of the crystal anyway, in what, like 5 seconds? Without a problem. Yeah, I know it's not the focus, but the story honestly could have gone from like a 7 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 if it didn't have so much, I don't know if bullshit is the most accurate word, but it's the one I got. So if the story wasn't full of so much bullshit in between to get to all these impactful emotional moments, and maybe if they had a cool twist in there, like Cal being a Sith, it could have gone for that top score. But no, at this point in the story, that possibility is almost dead. Honestly, this next part here is something I should have included in the gameplay versus story section of the last video, because it's one of the worst ones in my opinion. After fixing your lightsaber, you break into the Imperial mining section of the planet, which apparently lights up a red alarm, flooding the planet with stormtroopers and walkers. Seer says,
"Every Star Destroyer in the sector is on their way here."
But hold up, Cal has broken into Imperial facilities a bunch of times, and the Empire could not have cared less. They didn't send jack shit, acting as if he wasn't even there. But now they're sending in Star Destroyers? What the fuck? Naturally, I run as fast as possible in order to get back to the Manus, but they don't open the damn hatch, which makes absolutely no sense. The player is forced to fight these walkers down first, but story-wise, we are currently in a mad scramble to leave before the Empire shows up with everything they've got. So why the hell am I wasting my time? There's only one reason, and it's because the level designers forgot what actually happens in the story at this point, which makes this a horror example of the gameplay fighting against the narrative. But it's about time for my favorite boss fight. Taron Malikos, the inconspicuous wanderer, the fallen Jedi, the Night Sister manipulator, the man weaponizing the darkness of Dathomir with his bare hands. If you dare oppose him,
Dathomir will be your grave.
But before this, what does Cal mean with this sentence?
We were peacekeepers. We were betrayed by those we protected.
What? Who wrote this line? Alright, Taron Malikos is a case of lost potential, I would say, because his design is really cool, his voice actor great, and makes him imposing and alluring. The idea of a fallen Jedi succumbing to the dark side, lost in a hostile planet, and completely alone, trying to survive and to grow more and more powerful while manipulating everyone around him. It is very compelling, but he only shows up a total of 2 times before the final confrontation. There's just not enough time to properly develop the story as much as the character deserves. His boss fight is great, and it ends with Merrin turning Dathomir into Malikos' grave instead. And then Cal finally finds the Astrium in the inner chamber of the tomb of Kujet. Merrin decides to join him from this point on, tired of only having the company of this dude, dead sisters, and I guess she just doesn't care about the Night Brothers.
I grow tired of waiting for instruction from the sister.
You know what, fair enough. She raises the question of whether it really is the right thing to do, restarting the Jedi Order. Won't the children be hunted by the Empire like Cal has been? At this point, I want to raise a question about these children. Presumably they weren't Padawan yet, so how did the Jedi know about them in the first place? Did they really keep a detailed list of every infant with midichlorians or something? Isn't it then natural to assume that their families have moved elsewhere since the Purge, or are otherwise staying hidden, knowing that their kids are Force sensitive? If that's the case, I actually don't understand how the Empire would not also have access to similar information about their population in order to recruit Inquisitors or eliminate potential threats. In my opinion, it seems obvious that their lives would improve in terms of how much good they can achieve, and that they would be safer knowing how to defend themselves. I'm not saying that Cal should rock up and start teaching everyone at the same time, especially if you lack a secure place to set up a new order. I'm just saying that I believe they not only should, but have a responsibility to take at least 1 or 2 as apprentices for Cal and Cere in order to let the Jedi live on in some form or another, and to continue struggling against the Empire. Even with my personal position on this topic, I must admit that the Force Vision sequence that I have been showing clips of within the vault is fantastic. Seeing new innocent children eager to learn about the Force attacked by the Empire, killed off or captured, and tortured as Cal can do nothing. Perhaps he himself turned into an Inquisitor. It is nightmare fuel, and especially this section is such a clever way to turn the gameplay of climbing up a wall into an engaging and interesting sequence. Same with using the lightsaber light to reveal this. Even if it's not a Cal as a Sith reveal, it's still just as shocking and feels so wrong. Back to the vault on Bogano, we're able to finally access Cordova's holocron. That the Empire would then try to take the holocron as soon as it's in our possession was expected. But how come nobody notices it? Are you kidding me? Isn't Cere or Grease watching a radar or even just looking outside the damn window? Trilla goes in, fights Cal, and gets off the planet without the others noticing anything before he returns. Really? They follow them into Fortress Inquisitorius to face Trilla and retrieve the holocron. I'll mention that I think it's stupid that Merrin can make the entire ship completely invisible, and that Cal and Cere can traverse through so much of the fortress without a bunch of Inquisitors coming in or the entire facility going into lockdown. Though, after defeating Trilla, which to be fair is a difficult fight, the Empire finally stops playing around, because they've sent the main man himself. Darth Vader has come to play.
That doesn't look good.
It isn't. It's him.
He does not even give you a chance. This encounter is every Star Wars kid's dream, because you're meeting one of the most iconic villains of all time. He waves up Cere like an annoying fly, and wields power like an eldritch god. You might think you're all that after defeating a few different Inquisitors, but Darth Vader is on a completely different power scale. I love the description of him in the guide menu afterwards. Few survive an encounter with the most powerful Sith in the galaxy. Escape is the only chance of survival.
You would be wise to surrender.
He fights slow and with ease, as if he's up against children. After Cal barely escapes through the window, he holds back an ocean, trying to enter the corridor. If you have played Survivor or seen the last video, you might understand how I'm going to talk about Darth Vader's betrayal there, compared to in Fallen Order, where he is executed perfectly, as an unbeatable force of nature that will inevitably crush you if you fight him directly. Also, are we supposed to not talk about how dumb it is that Cal puts the underwater breather on Cere instead of himself, dooming both of them? He's the one swimming. Now for the ending.
The lives of every child on that list will be forever changed.
Not by us. Their destiny should be trusted to the Force. So where to now?
You just destroyed the only thing I've worked for since escaping the Empire. My one chance to redeem myself from what happened to Trilla. Our one chance to restart the fallen Jedi Order. Our only fighting chance left against the Empire. You took that decision, not just on the behalf of the people in this room, but on the behalf of all those children. You just ruined the only realistic chance of me training another Padawan ever again. Whatever, say a funny one-liner and it's all forgotten.
So where to now?
That's Fallen Order. Is it the most consistent story? No. Does it do anything particularly risky? No. But despite being a bit safe and boring in that sense, I mean, we always knew that they weren't going to actually restart the Jedi Order in some sort of alternate timeline. It was still very engaging and got emotionally heavy at multiple times. The characters were great and the story felt overall acceptable, even if a bit rushed and weird at certain points. To me, it was probably a bit more unpredictable than for most, considering I was just waiting for a Sith reveal for 90% of the game. But even on my reruns of the game, the entire Gera to Paul section gets me, the Trilla torture gets me, the Vault sequence hits, and the Darth Vader section is still the most epic thing ever. So, what do we want from a sequel? Hard to say, but for me, I wanted one of the main themes to be Cal struggling with the dark side. I promise that's not because I still think he's a Sith or should become one, but because Cal is already so impulsive and emotionally vulnerable. It makes sense. He never finished his Jedi training properly, which makes for an interesting character that doesn't necessarily have full control over his emotions. I could 100% see him going dark side on someone who killed a friend of his. Make that his big conflict in the game. I would love to see him lose some control over himself in this regard. Survivor kinda does this, but it's too little too late in the story in my opinion. In terms of the plot itself, maybe we do some interesting missions for Saw Gerrera, get caught up in a rebellion against the Empire on a specific planet, or who knows, maybe we'll meet a Zeffo in this game and understand their fall better. Perhaps Cal stars up a casino with greasy money, baby. Who knows?
State your business.
Jedi Survivor starts with Cal in captivity, being delivered to a senator for a bounty. But, of course, this is all a plot to get him close and extract vital information, this time working for Saw Gerrera. The anonymous bounty hunters that brought you in are your squad mates that Cal seems to have a close relationship to already. Now, the first time I saw these guys, it felt a bit odd. Are we really going to have a whole game where Cal quips with characters we didn't get to see him form relationships with? Which made this much less surprising than it could have been. Personally, I think this is a weak opening. Cal does not mention or give a fuck about these people ever again throughout the game, so why were they even there to begin with? Anyways, only Cal and the new guy Bode survives the mission. From the start, he is paired up with you as a companion in gameplay, and in my opinion, a bit forced into the narrative as the game tells you, hey, this is Cal's best friend from now on, okay? Look, he fights for his daughter, he's sympathetic, capable, and cool. He will be with you for the entire game, and you will love it. For my part, I do accept it, because as I said, I think he is very likable, and his voice actor is just really good. Shout out to that guy, you did a great job. After this mission, Cal sends the extracted information to Saw. But a part of the ship was damaged in the escape, and therefore he decides to go to a distant planet called Koboh to get help, because it's where Grease settled down. I think this too is kinda weak. Does it not make more sense to go back to Saw? Surely they would have people capable of repairing ship parts there, and it would be beneficial with a debrief, especially when basically everyone died in the mission. But I get it, lay low, use it as an excuse to catch up with your homie, and fix the ship at the same time. I mean, who knows, maybe you're being tailed by the Empire and you don't want to send them to a rebel base. However, after that, one would naturally expect Cal to report back to Saw Gerrera for a debrief and talk about what they should do next, if he should take a break, if Saw really trusts the new guy Bode and is 100% sure about his background, and if they were able to put that intel into good use. It is a complete failure from the writers that Saw Gerrera is never mentioned again. It makes sense to talk to him regardless of what else is going on, and it should have been a much more important part of the narrative. Or not included at all, with Cal being his own freelancer. Here comes another issue. Koboh. I don't know about you guys, but I don't care about Koboh. It's a boring planet, mostly separated from anything got to do with the Empire, has annoying animals, open and aimless areas, pointless side quests and characters. It's just not exciting at all. The only saving grace is that at least the Bedlam Raiders and Ravis are kinda interesting, and it's where the main storyline begins as well. By complete chance, might I add. Cal stumbles into this old Jedi chamber conveniently located directly under Grease's saloon and finds Z, a droid who has been stuck here for years and years. She was midway through a mission for her master back in the day, where, in the words of her master, she were to open the forest array, lest the key to Tanalor may be lost forever. She explains that Tanalor is a planet where the Jedi Order wanted to establish a temple to train Jedi on the frontier of the galaxy, hidden in the supposedly unnavigable Koboh abyss. This is kind of interesting. We're opening something completely different here so far. I also want to play this cutscene here because I think it's really good and showcases the natural chemistry between our characters, Cal, Bode, and Grease.
I'm a friend of Cal Kestis.
Cal, what's it? Look, I told you, buddy, you're in the wrong cantina. I don't know anybody named Cal Kestis.
Hey, Grease.
Oh, that Cal Kestis.
Found the gyro. You made it.
Good to see you, Cal.
Grease Dritus, this is Bode. He was on Coruscant. Wouldn't have made it out alive without his help.
Oh, all right. Hi, nice to meet you.
So what does this thing we got from Z open up? Well, the forest array, this huge construct, and inside, someone is being kept in a cryo chamber. The mystery is great, we get to see a bit of Tanalor itself through whoever is in there, and apparently an attack on it? Suddenly, the person we have been following addresses us directly and begs us to release him. He's the dude in the cryo chamber, a Jedi from the High Republic. This is getting interesting. He does not seem to care about Cal's updates that the Republic is gone, the Jedi are gone, or that an empire with a Sith Lord has taken over. He just immediately wants to go to Tanalor. I mean, he fucking speedruns the art of bleeding his lightsaber out while crying about the Order giving up Tanalor. I ruined this cutscene on my second playthrough though, because I was rocking a red lightsaber as well. That's stupid. I have the red lightsaber as well in this cutscene. That makes no sense. It looks so stupid now. Anyways, it feels really odd that Z was sent on this mission by her master Centauri Kree, when this guy, Dagan Gera, is the most emotional, angry, and irrational Jedi I've ever seen. Anakin wasn't this emotional in Revenge of the Sith. Why is he trapped here in a cryo chamber? And why would anyone want to set him free? Spoiler alert, this is never made clear. Yeah, we do find out later that he was obsessed with the idea of creating a Jedi temple on Tanalor, and that he rebelled and murdered other Jedi when the Republic wanted to abandon it and erase all information about how to get there. Still, if this is a man so dangerous, impulsive, and uncontrollable that he would go to such lengths, apparently centimeters away from embracing the dark side, why is he kept captive in this random area? And why let him go? He's obviously crazy and obscenely selfish. This is a question I immediately noted down after the encounter, and I don't feel it is ever answered or makes any sense beyond this man is selfish, mad, and holds zero control over himself, and Centauri Kree was his friend at some point, so she just looks away from all of that. How did he even become a Jedi in the first place?
The tuner is mine! The droid is mine! Tanalor is mine!
So from this point on, it's actually relatively easy to sum up the narrative of the main storyline, because the vast majority of this game is Cal and his buddies dicking around looking for a way to navigate the Koboh Abyss to get to Tanalor themselves by obtaining a so-called Abyss Compass and trying to stop Dagan Gera, occasionally broken up by, for example, the part where you have to help the hidden path on Jedha. Wait, I didn't even mention this yet, did I? Cere is currently on the planet Gera, trying to restore the Jedi archives so that the knowledge and traditions of the Jedi may live on. Additionally, she is leading something called the Hidden Path that takes care of refugees on the run from the Empire, mainly Force sensitives. Also, Eno Cordova is here. What? I'm sorry, but mate, where the f*** were you for the duration of the last game? How did he survive the Purge? Where has he been the last 10 years, or however long it's been? He doesn't mention it. Cal never cares to ask either. I found this to be really annoying. I really liked him in Fallen Order, but there's something to be said about the mystery around what happened to him, and the knowledge that he will never know who we are, or if anyone ever managed to follow his path. Then just having him show up out of nowhere to say, "Great job, Cal, I'm just gonna sit here and not do anything for the rest of the game," acting like a hollow quest giver, and then I'm going to die soon anyway because the writers don't know what the fuck to do with my character! Just don't bring him back in this game. It was perfectly fine as it was.
BD.
Whatever, beyond Cordova himself, the thing I find really weird about this entire aspect of the game is that we never see a single refugee in the Hidden Path. Not a single one, even in the mission where we're supposed to warn them of an Imperial excavation and help evacuate them. We just see Eremias, one of the leaders in the Hidden Path, dying like a moron, and no refugees. Where were they moved to? It's odd to me that this is never shown or explained. In general, we never see Cere do anything really. The Hidden Path just feels like a convenient excuse for why she isn't traveling with Cal. Also, a small side tangent here. Merrin is ridiculously overpowered. She can teleport anywhere she wants, create portals, lift and manipulate gigantic objects. She can make a spacecraft and its interior completely invisible on her own. She never struggles, even for a second, in a fight, and can hold a perfect T-pose posture for an uncomfortably long amount of time.
What the f*** is this? Is he just stuck?
Must have taken lifetimes to build this place.
Oh my god.
Comes in handy.
He just ruins the entire story. He's just fucking standing around T-posing. There's supposed to be an enemy spawning into the game. It just doesn't. So I just have to restart probably, right? It might have something to do with her T-posing, which I also don't imagine I can do much about.
So in general, it feels like she could do anything, but decides not to and lets Cal do it instead. She should not be this strong. Now let's jump forward to the last confrontation with Dagan Gera. He doesn't really change at any point. He's still the same annoying, angry teenager inside the body of a Jedi Knight, trash talking. Though I must say that even if his character is simple, I still find him very entertaining and engaging as a villain. This final boss fight is the best in the game, in my opinion. He conjures up Force hallucinations driven by fear, making the boss fight surreal and epic. I like how Cal defeats him by using his own fear against him, and even his ending feels grand. Now, after perhaps the best part of the game so far, with high intensity and interesting levels, the story picking up some pace, amazing boss fights against Ravis and Dagan Gera, there is a question of how to end this story. Our antagonists are already gone, and the target is well within sights. It seems just a little bit too easy from here on. And this is the pivotal moment where Bode takes things into his own hands and decides to ruin the entire game. This is one of the dumbest things I have seen in my entire life. My man, who just risked his own life a number of different times in order to help Cal get this compass, who has been nothing but nice, compassionate, and helpful, decides to kill a Jedi Master, who by the way is the only reason the compass works at all, alienate all his friends in order to go to an unknown planet with his daughter. To do what? Just live there with no one else for his daughter to be with, to no purpose, besides keeping her away from the Empire, while also removing that option from every other innocent person hunted by the Empire. It is not only ridiculously selfish and feels out of character, but it's completely irrational. If Cere was to send her Hidden Path people to Tanalor, set up base there and start a new Jedi Order, or at least a safe haven for Force sensitives, how does that not outright improve Bode and his daughter's situation compared to them living completely isolated there? Based on the information we know about this character, his decision to betray Cal and the others is nonsense. The only way it makes any sense is if you look at it from a writer's perspective. Killing off Dagan Gera, the driving antagonist who sets this entire story into motion, is inherently difficult. He is an immensely powerful fallen Jedi with that direct connection to Tanalor. His obsession and his plan is pretty interesting and ambitious. So when he is removed from the plot with an intense epic boss fight, you, as a writer, have to ask yourself the question, where do we go from here? Well, the easiest answer I can think of is to just make up a new antagonist. And since we do not have enough time for a new character at this late stage, let's just jump off a cliff and have Bode murder Eno Cordova for a bullshit, nonsensical reason. It's awful, but it gets worse. You see, at this point I was thinking that Bode had to be some sort of Imperial informant, and that he doesn't actually have a daughter at all. This entire character is a facade. The entire time he was infiltrating Cal's team and reporting to the Empire, acting like he was doing all this for his daughter and loyalty to his new friends. While this at first seems tangible, it just doesn't make any sense when you realize that Bode has had so many chances where he outright could have killed Cal or let him die, and he himself has killed dozens of Imperials at this point. It's not like Tanalor would be too interesting on its own for the Empire. They already control the galaxy. Surely the order from his superiors would be to eliminate Cal earlier if he was an Imperial spy. So now we have two possible options. Either Bode has been truthful up to this point about his daughter and motivations, and is just straight up selfish and irrational to an insane degree, or he is an incompetent Imperial agent who could and should have eliminated Cal much earlier in the story. Which option do we go with? What about both? And also, he has actually been a Jedi this entire time. This is where the story became so ridiculous that it looped back around and became entertaining again. At this point, fuck it. They already wrote themselves into a corner. Just lean into it. Have Bode be a fallen Jedi on the same level as Cal. Let's say he was just hiding his force powers up until this point, even in life or death situations. Make him an Imperial agent that infiltrates Cal's team, reports all the information that he gains, to then betray Cal, and for some reason also run off and betray the Empire.
And you're just gonna hand it to the Empire?
I'm not giving it to the Empire.
In order to go into hiding with his daughter, to keep her from the Empire. That doesn't make any sense. When confronted by Cal, his reasoning is as weak as it gets. He claims to be worried about the Empire arriving at Tanalor and taking his daughter, when he himself is the only fucking reason the Empire knows the planet exists in the first place. You moron! But oh boy, we're not done with nonsense yet, because Darth Vader himself is calling me on the phone, and he's telling me that he's not bringing his asthma medicine to Jeddah. Which might explain this atrocious boss fight, where he is embarrassed by Seer, a Jedi who should be miles off his power level. How much combat training has Seer had recently? Against whom? Her dual capabilities should be very limited compared to the average Jedi. Cal at this point has had a bunch of training in combat, including his victory over a very capable Jedi from the High Republic, so it's more excusable that he would have held his own in such a fight, even if Darth Vader probably still should be a few levels too high. But Seer should not even threaten him in this duel, yet she is the one that steers the fight, and in the final cutscene, she only fails to kill him because of this wannabe Thanos Infinity War moment, where she completely misses him. Then he proceeds to pathetically whimper away, not even daring to face the others. Compare this to his betrayal in Fallen Order. It's night and day. What happens next? Following Bode to Nova Garan, where you find out about his Imperial spy activities. And then to Tanalor, where you have the final confrontation. Personally, I find it underwhelming and anticlimactic. There's not really anything interesting on the planet itself. The best part of it was when I broke the boss fight, but I don't think I'll put that as a plus for the story. I think the very ending is as good as it could have been though. It's bittersweet, beautiful, and raises some interest for what comes next. Will Cal try to establish some sort of Jedi temple here, as Dagan originally intended? Will he try to train Bode's daughter? She might be Force sensitive as well. Will he start a more peaceful life with Merrin? And most importantly, will Grease's saloon continue to bloom? There's potential here for a sequel. Where I see most wasted potential, which I hope the next game will make better use of, is in these sequences. I love that after Cal discovers the depth of Bode's betrayal, you can start to embrace the dark to make fights easier, giving you a red lightsaber and increased speed and damage. The gameplay showcases how Cal gives more into his emotions during fights after the deaths of Cere and Cordova, which I find fitting. I wanted this to be the focus of the game, feeling the rush and the power to be gained from the dark side, to be able to avenge your loved ones and destroy your enemies easier. It is actually instrumental in how Cal wins over Bode in the end. I find it interesting that Cal strays further and further from Jedi principles. No attachments, serenity, calm and in peace with yourself. I wanted this to be front and center moving forwards, and it honestly should have been in this game. Cal has always been impulsive and very attached to the friends that he makes. I think it makes sense as a potential flaw of his character that can make him struggle more with the dark side. For a more specific change to the story as is, it would be much more interesting to have Dagan Gera be a more level-headed, rational person and potential ally, but perhaps who relies on his emotions a bit too much, causing both of them to draw on the dark side more and more. And as Cal works with him to find Tanalor or fight with the Empire, he realizes that they're both on a very dangerous path, which could lead to a fallout and a betrayal that makes more sense. Make Dagan Gera a much more interesting and dynamic character instead of an unhinged psychopath, and cut out all this Bode bullshit at the end. I won't pretend to know better than anyone else, but I think that would be a much more interesting direction for the story in this game. And it's a very simple change. At the end of this, I just feel like a bunch of stuff happened, and I don't really care about any of it. I still remain somewhat interested in the continuation of this story regardless, but it remains to be seen whether Respawn can put together a better story in a more compelling direction in the third game. For now, I want to thank you all for watching. I am humbled and grateful for the surprising amount of support and feedback that I got on the Last Jedi video. I'm delighted to answer any questions, opinions, or anything else you might have on your mind. With that said, I'm going to close this video out with one of my favorite Star Wars quotes. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I will see you in a future video. The dark is generous. Its first gift is concealment. Our true faces lie in the dark beneath our skins. Our true hearts remain shadowed deeper still. But the greatest concealment lies not in protecting our secret truths, but in hiding from the truths of others. The dark protects us from what we dare not know. Its second gift is comforting illusion, the ease of gentle dreams in night's embrace, the beauty that imagination brings to what would repel in the day's harsh light. But the greatest of its comforts is the illusion that dark is temporary, that every night brings a new day, because it is the day that is temporary. Day is the illusion. Its third gift is the light itself. As days are defined by the nights that divide them, as stars are defined by the infinite black through which they wheel, the dark embraces the light and brings it forth from the center of its own self. With each victory of the light, it is the dark that wins. The dark is generous, and it is patient. It is the dark that seeds cruelty into justice, that drips contempt into compassion, that poisons love with grains of doubt. The dark can be patient, because the slightest drop of rain will cause those seeds to sprout. The rain will come, and the seeds will sprout, for the dark is the soil in which they grow, and it is the clouds above them, and it waits behind the star that gives them light. The dark's patience is infinite. Eventually, even stars burn out. The dark is generous, and it is patient, and it always wins, It always wins, because it is everywhere. It is in the wood that burns in your hearth, and in the kettle on the fire. It is under your chair, and under your table, and under the sheets on your bed. Walk in the midday sun, and the dark is with you, attached to the soles of your feet. The brightest light casts the darkest shadow. The dark is generous, and it is patient, and it always wins. But in the heart of its strength lies its weakness. One lone candle is enough to hold it back. Love is more than a candle. Love can ignite the stars. By Matthew Stover in Revenge of the Sith.